Dad says you're just the bank machine. Emma smirked, her fingers delicately unwrapping the $2,000 laptop I'd bought her for her 16th birthday. Her words hung in the air like poison, but her eyes never left the shiny new device. Behind her, my ex-wife Sarah's lips curled into a satisfied smile. I stood there in their perfectly decorated living room, the same room I paid the mortgage on for the past 8 years since our divorce, watching my daughter dismiss me with the casual cruelty only teenagers can master. The birthday party guests, Sarah's new husband Tom, his parents, and a handful of Emma's friends, shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. "Well," Sarah chimed in, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "at least he's good for something, right?" The room erupted in awkward laughter. Tom's father even raised his beer in a mock toast. "To the ATM," he called out, and more laughter followed. I felt something crack inside me. Not break. No, breaking would have been easier. This was more like watching ice form over a lake. Slow, cold, and inevitable. 15 years of paying for everything. 8 years of post-divorce financial support that went far beyond any court requirements. Countless extras, treats, vacations, all while being treated like an inconvenience. Emma was already logging into her new laptop, not even bothering to look at me again. The same daughter I'd drive across town for at 3 a.m. when she needed something. The same girl whose college fund I'd been filling since the day she was born. "Need anything else while the bank's open?" Tom joked, his arm around Sarah's waist. They looked perfect together, standing in the kitchen I'd remodeled last year. The kitchen I'd paid for while they took a luxury vacation to Europe. I smiled. Not my usual smile, the one they were used to seeing when they needed something. This was different. This smile was a door closing. "No," I said quietly. "I think we're done here." Sarah's eyes narrowed slightly. She knew my tones even after all these years. She heard something in my voice that made her pause. "Don't be sensitive," she said quickly. "We're just joking. Emma, thank your father for the laptop." Emma glanced up, barely taking her eyes off the screen. "Thanks," she muttered, already immersed in setting up her social media accounts. I nodded, turned, and walked out. Behind me, I heard Sarah say something about me being dramatic, followed by more laughter. They didn't know. They couldn't understand that they'd just witnessed the last withdrawal they'd ever make from their human ATM. The drive home was silent. No radio, no phone calls, just the sound of my thoughts crystallizing into a plan. I'd given them everything, not because of obligation, but because I thought it would make Emma love me more. I thought if I could give her the perfect life, she'd see past whatever poison Sarah had been feeding her about me. I was wrong. My apartment felt different when I walked in. Small, yes, but honest. No pretense here. No expensive furniture or designer decorations. Just a simple space I'd settled for so I could keep funding their extravagant lifestyle. I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. Years of financial records stared back at me. Every payment, every transfer, every extra bit of support that went beyond the divorce agreement. I kept meticulous records, not for this moment, but because that's who I was. Organized. Reliable. The bank machine. First, I called my lawyer. "Mark, I need you to review something for me. All my financial support beyond the divorce decree. Yes, everything. I want to know exactly what I'm legally required to provide." Mark was silent for a moment. Finally, he said quietly, "I've been waiting for this call for years." Next came the spreadsheets. Every voluntary payment I'd made since the divorce. The house payments that kept them in the expensive neighborhood with the good schools. The credit cards I kept paying off. The countless emergencies that somehow always required my money to fix. Total, $847,932. Nearly $1 million in 8 years, above and beyond child support and alimony. Money I'd earned working 60-hour weeks while they posted vacation photos on social media. Money that could have bought me a house of my own instead of this small apartment. My phone buzzed. "Sarah. Emma wants to know if you can add some software to her laptop. For school. It's only about $300. I let it go to voicemail. It buzzed again and again. Finally, I picked up. "Is something wrong with your phone?" Sarah's voice was sharp. "Emma needs this software for a project." "No," I said simply. "No what?" "No, I won't be buying any software." There was a pause. "Don't be ridiculous. It's for her education." Stop being petty just because you can't take a joke. I'm not being petty, Sarah. I'm being done. Another pause, longer this time. What's that supposed to mean? It means exactly what I said. I'm done. No more extra support, no more house payments, no more credit cards. Nothing beyond what the court ordered. She laughed, but it was forced. You can't do that. Actually, I can. I just did. We'll see about that, she snapped and hung up. I turned back to my laptop and began systematically removing my name from everything. Credit cards, canceled. Automatic payments, stopped. Joint accounts, closed. Each click felt like breaking a chain. My phone exploded with notifications. Sarah, Emma, even Tom trying to reach me. I turned it off. Then I opened a new document and began typing. Dear Emma, since you see me as nothing but a bank machine, I thought you should know exactly what this machine has provided over the years. I've attached a complete financial record of every voluntary payment I've made since the divorce. I worked through the night, compiling records, scanning receipts, documenting every instance of financial support that went beyond my obligations. Every vacation I'd funded while being told I couldn't come along. Every luxury purchase that was met with demands for more. Around dawn, my email pinged. My lawyer had reviewed everything. You're well within your rights to stop all voluntary support. In fact, you've been significantly overpaying. If they challenge this, it won't go well for them. I printed everything, all the records, all the receipts, all the proof of my years of generosity. It filled 3 thick binders. On top, I placed a simple note. You wanted a bank machine. Here's your statement. Then I called the courier service. I need these delivered to this address at exactly 9 a.m. The sun was rising as I finally went to bed. My phone, when I turned it back on, showed 47 missed calls and over 100 messages. I deleted them all without reading. For the first time in years, I slept peacefully. The explosion came exactly as I expected. At 9:15 a.m., my phone rang again. Sarah's name flashed on the screen, but this time I was ready. How dare you? She screamed before I could speak. How dare you do this to us? Do what? I asked calmly. Provide you with accurate financial records? You know what you did. All our cards are declined. The house payment didn't go through. Emma's in tears. Yes, I set my voice level. That's what happens when an ATM closes. You can't just cut us off like this. We have a lifestyle to maintain. Your lifestyle, I corrected. The one I've been funding while being treated like an inconvenience. Read the record, Sarah. Every penny I've given you beyond what was required. Nearly $1 million. She was silent for a moment. We'll go to court, she threatened. We'll show them what kind of father abandons his child. Please do, I replied. Show them everything, including the records of how you've spent the money. The vacations, the luxury purchases, your new kitchen. I'm sure the judge will be very interested in how you've been spending child support payments. Emma needs to understand that actions have consequences. I cut her off. She needs to learn that treating people like ATMs eventually leads to closed accounts. You're being cruel, Sarah's voice cracked. After everything we've been through. No, I said firmly, I'm being fair. For the first time in 15 years, I'm being fair to myself. I hung up and blocked her number. Then I opened my email and sent a mass message to everyone who had been at the party. Attached were photos of the financial records along with a simple message. Since you all found it so amusing that I was just a bank machine, I thought you might enjoy seeing the full transaction history. Consider this my final statement. Within minutes, my phone began buzzing with messages from Sarah's family and friends. Some expressed shock at the amounts involved. Others tried to play mediator. A few even apologized for their laughter at the party. I blocked them all. Around noon, Emma called from a friend's phone. Dad, her voice was small, nothing like the smirking teenager from the party. What's going on? Mom's crying and all the cards don't work and. Read the records, Emma, I said quietly. All of them. Then ask yourself if I deserve to be treated like an ATM. But Dad, I need. No, Emma. You don't need, you want. There's a difference. One you're about to learn. I hung up, feeling the ice in my chest crack a little. But I didn't break. I couldn't afford to break. Not anymore. The rest of the day passed in a blur of ignored calls and deleted messages. I ordered takeout, watched a movie, and started browsing real estate listings. Without the burden of supporting their lifestyle, I could afford a decent house of my own. As I was getting ready for bed, one final email came through from Tom. "You've made your point. Let's talk about this like adults. Name your price." I stared at those words for a long time. Name your price. Like everything could be reduced to a transaction. Like I was really nothing more than an ATM to all of them. I replied with 2 words. Account closed. Then I turned off my phone, closed my laptop, and went to bed. Tomorrow would bring more drama, more threats, more attempts to manipulate me back into my role as their personal bank. But for now, for the first time in 15 years, my account was finally balanced. And I was finally free. The fallout was nuclear. Within a week, their carefully constructed facade began crumbling. Sarah's perfect social media life, filled with designer purchases and fancy restaurants, went silent. Emma's Instagram stories about her luxury shopping sprees disappeared. Tom's boasting about their lifestyle at neighborhood gatherings turned to awkward excuses about being between investments. I watched it all from a distance, emotionally detached, like observing a storm through a window. My lawyer kept me updated on their increasingly desperate attempts to force me back into my role as their financial support system. First came the legal threats. Sarah's attorney sent a strongly worded letter demanding I maintain the established standard of living. My lawyer's response was a detailed spreadsheet of every voluntary payment I'd made beyond court requirements, along with a subtle reminder that opening our financial history to legal scrutiny might not be in their best interest. The letter was withdrawn within days. Then came the flying monkeys, mutual friends, family members, even Emma's teachers, all reaching out with carefully crafted messages about how concerned they were. "Your daughter's struggling to adjust," one email read. She had to cancel her spring break trip to Paris with her friends. I deleted it without responding. "Sarah's worried about making the country club payments," another friend messaged. "The other mothers are starting to talk." Block. The real entertainment began when Tom's true colors emerged. The man who played the role of generous stepfather, always quick to offer expensive gifts, with my money and lavish experiences that I paid for, suddenly faced the reality of actually supporting the lifestyle he claimed to provide. It didn't go well. I heard through the grapevine that he'd started making excuses about business setbacks, suggesting that Sarah get a job just until things stabilize. Sarah, who hadn't worked since before our marriage, apparently didn't take that suggestion well. Their arguments became neighborhood gossip. The perfect couple's facade was cracking, and everyone was watching. Emma's texts shifted from angry demands to increasingly desperate pleas. "Dad, Mom, and Tom are fighting all the time. Please just talk to them." "Dad, I had to quit the writing lessons. This isn't fair." "Dad, everyone at school knows something's wrong. People are talking about us." Each message was harder to ignore than the last, but I held firm. Sometimes love means letting people face the consequences of their actions. The breaking point came exactly 1 month after I closed the accounts. I was leaving my office when I saw them, Sarah and Emma, waiting by my car. Sarah had traded her designer clothes for something more modest, and Emma's usually perfect hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. "We need to talk," Sarah said, trying to sound authoritative, but her voice wavered. "No," I replied, unlocking my car. "We don't. Look what you're doing to our daughter." Sarah grabbed Emma's shoulder, pushing her forward like a shield. "Look at her." I looked at Emma and really looked at her. Behind the makeup and the practiced pout, I saw something new, uncertainty. For the first time in years, she wasn't completely sure of her place in the world. "I see her," I said quietly. "I see her learning that actions have consequences, that treating people like ATMs eventually leads to closed accounts." "Stop saying that," Emma burst out. "I'm your daughter, not some kind of transaction." "Are you?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "Because from where I stand, our entire relationship has been reduced to transactions. Phone calls when you need money, visits when you want something. Even my birthday present to you was met with mockery." "That was just a joke," Sarah cut in. "You're being oversensitive." "No," I turned to face her fully. "I'm being honest. For the first time in 15 years, I'm being completely honest. You taught our daughter that I was nothing but a resource to be exploited. You turned my love into a transaction. And now you're both learning what happens when the transaction ends." Tom's talking about moving us to a smaller house, Emma said, her voice small. He says we can't afford the payments anymore. That's what happens when you live beyond your means, I replied. When you depend on someone else's generosity while treating them with contempt. We can fix this. Sarah stepped closer, her voice dropping to the soft, manipulative tone I remember from our marriage. We can work something out. Emma misses you. Don't you miss your daughter? I've missed my daughter for years, I said. I missed her every time she ignored my calls unless she needed money. Every time she canceled our plans because something better came along. Every time she treated me like an ATM instead of a father. Emma started crying, but these weren't the calculated tears I'd seen her use to get what she wanted. These were real, messy, uncomfortable tears. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know. Yes, you did, I corrected her gently. You just didn't care. Neither of you did. As long as the money kept flowing, my feelings didn't matter. What do you want? Sarah demanded, her manipulative tone giving way to frustration. What do we have to do to fix this? Nothing, I replied, opening my car door. There's nothing to fix. You wanted a bank machine. The bank machine is closed. You can't just abandon your family. Sarah's voice rose, drawing attention from people leaving the office. Family? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Family doesn't treat each other like ATMs. Family doesn't mock and belittle each other for entertainment. You stopped being family the moment you turned me into nothing but a financial resource. Dad, please, Emma reached for my arm. I'll do better. I promise. I looked at her hand on my arm, remembering all the times she'd made similar promises when she needed something. All the times those promises evaporated as soon as the money was in her account. No, Emma, I said softly, removing her hand. You'll do differently, because you have to. And maybe somewhere in that difference, you'll learn what really matters. I got into my car and started the engine. Through the window, I could see Sarah's face contorted with anger and frustration. Emma just looked lost. When you're ready to have a father instead of an ATM, I said through the partially open window, you know how to reach me. But know this, the bank is permanently closed. I drove away, watching them shrink in my rearview mirror. Two figures standing in the parking lot, their perfect world crumbling around them. That night, I received one final email from Tom. You've destroyed this family. Sarah's talking about divorce. Emma's grades are dropping. Was your pride worth all this? I replied, you can't destroy what was already broken. You just remove the money holding the pieces together. Then I opened my laptop and did something I've been putting off. I logged into Emma's college fund account, the one Sarah didn't know about, the one I've been filling since the day Emma was born. I didn't close it. Instead, I added a note to be delivered when Emma turns 18. When you're ready to build a relationship that isn't based on transactions, this will be waiting. Not as a payment, but as a fresh start. The choice will be yours. Continue being an ATM customer or become a daughter again. Then I closed my laptop, poured myself a drink, and sat in the quiet of my apartment. Tomorrow would bring more drama, more accusations, more attempts to make me the villain in their story. But for tonight, I was just a man who had finally closed his account. And somewhere, in a perfectly decorated house they could no longer afford, a mother and daughter were learning the true cost of treating love like a transaction. 6 months passed. 6 months of silence, broken only by occasional updates from mutual acquaintances. The changes in their lives were exactly what you'd expect when a family's financial cushion suddenly disappears. Sarah and Tom's perfect marriage imploded spectacularly. Without my money smoothing over their lifestyle differences, the cracks became chasms. He moved out in month 4, leaving Sarah to face the reality of her first job interview in 17 years. The house went on the market. The luxury cars disappeared from the driveway. Emma transferred from her prestigious private school to the local public high school, a change that would have seemed apocalyptic in their previous life. I watched it all from a distance, not with satisfaction, but with a strange sense of peace. Sometimes healing only begins when the bandages are ripped off. Then, on an ordinary Tuesday morning, Emma walked into my office. She looked different. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by simple jeans and a sweater. Her face was clear of makeup, making her look younger, more like the daughter I remembered from before money became our only connection. Your secretary said I could wait, she said softly, standing awkwardly by my desk. I hope that's okay. I gestured to the chair across from me. She sat, fidgeting with the strap of her backpack, not the $800 one I'd bought her last Christmas, but a plain one that probably came from Target. "How did you find my office?" I asked. "I asked around," she shrugged. "It wasn't hard. You're kind of important here." Silence stretched between us. Not comfortable silence, the kind that feels like glass about to break. "Mom got a job," she finally said. "At a real estate office. She cries sometimes when she thinks I'm not looking." I nodded but didn't speak. "Tom left," she continued. "Said he didn't sign up for," she made air quotes, "this kind of lifestyle adjustment." "And how are you?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. She looked down at her hands. "I had to get a job too. At the mall. Folding clothes. There's nothing wrong with honest work." "I know that now," she whispered. I never had to know it before." More silence. Then she reached into her backpack and pulled out a wrinkled envelope. "I saved this," she said, sliding it across my desk. "From my first paycheck. I wanted you to have it." Inside was $100 in crumpled bills. "What's this for?" "It's a start," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "On paying you back. I know it's not much, but—" "Stop," I said firmly, sliding the money back to her. "I didn't do this to get repaid." "Then why?" Her voice was small. "Why did you do it?" I leaned back in my chair, studying my daughter's face, really looking at her, maybe for the first time in years. "Because you needed to learn that people aren't ATMs, that relationships aren't transactions, that love isn't measured in dollar signs." "I get that now," she nodded. "I really do. The kids at my new school, they don't care what brands I wear or where I vacation. They just like me, or don't, for me." "And how does that feel?" "Scary," she admitted. "But real. Everything before feels like a dream I was having. A really expensive dream." I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe its first seedling. "The college fund is still there," I said quietly, "for when you're ready." Her head snapped up. "Really?" "Really, but not as a transaction. Not as a way to buy back what we had. As a fresh start if you want it." She was quiet for a long moment, thinking. The old Emma would have immediately started planning how to access the money. This Emma just nodded slowly. Can we just have coffee sometime?" she asked. "Not to talk about money or stuff. Just coffee." "I like that." She stood up, shouldering her backpack. At the door, she paused. "Dad?" "Yes." "I'm sorry. Not because we lost the money. Not because life is harder now, but because I forgot you were my father before you were my ATM." After she left, I sat in my office for a long time, looking at the door where she'd stood. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Probably another attempt at manipulation, another plea for financial support. I almost deleted it without reading, but something made me look. "She came to see you, didn't she? Don't give in. She's just playing you like always." I smiled, a sad smile for a woman who still didn't understand what any of this was really about. "This was never about the money, Sarah," I typed back. "It was about teaching our daughter that love isn't a transaction. Some lessons cost more than others." Then I blocked her number again. That evening, I drove past their old house. The forward SALE sign swayed in the breeze, a few real estate flyers scattered on the perfectly manicured lawn I used to pay to maintain. Through the window, I could see Sarah showing the house to potential buyers, her face fixed in the same artificial smile she used to wear at charity events and country club dinners. Emma sat on the front steps, doing homework under the porch light. As I drove past, she looked up, and for a brief moment, our eyes met. She didn't wave. I didn't stop. But something passed between us, an understanding, maybe, or the beginning of one. The ATM was still closed. But maybe, just maybe, a father and daughter were finding their way back to each other, not through transactions or payments or expensive gifts, but through something simpler, something real, something that no amount of money could buy or break.